This is Take a Cue, Season 3, Episode 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey there, music educators. Welcome to Season 3 of Take a Cue, the podcast that hits all the right notes when talking about teaching band in elementary, middle, and high schools. I'm Erik Donough.
And I'm Jen Wise. Together, we've got 40 years of experience in New Jersey public schools, and we're here to share our passion, our insights, and a few laughs along the way.
Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, Take a Cue is your backstage pass to inspiring your students, navigating the highs and lows of band directing, and making every rehearsal count.
From innovative teaching strategies to the best ways to handle those tricky moments, we've got tips, stories, and expert advice to keep you motivated and make your program shine.
If you're enjoying what you hear, please remember to give us a 5-star rating and leave a review on your favorite podcast app. Your feedback helps us bring more great content your way.
And let's keep the conversation going. You can interact with us and stay updated on all things Take a Cue by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Take a Cue Podcast. We'd love to hear your thoughts, answer your questions, and see how you're applying tips in your classroom.
So grab your baton, tune up those instruments, and join us as we dive into the world of band directing with a fresh perspective and a lot of enthusiasm.
Get ready to take your teaching to the next level. This is Take a Cue. Erik, this is such a fun conversation about scheduling.
I know. Who would have thought? Scheduling in band.
We got to talk about a host of different programs and different schedule setups, and hopefully somebody gets something out of this today. Like, I go back to like this book. The book, 7 Habits of Exceptional People, this Stephen Covey, and it's like time is a finite commodity, right? We really have to know our schedules and use them to the max for the sake of our students. So it's an important part of how your program just runs. And hopefully we touched on some helpful things today.
What I learned today was there is no perfect schedule. Every schedule that we talked about today, or 5 or 6 of them, all have pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
And it's really just a matter of finding the schedule that works with you and working your magic within the constraints of what you're given. Especially if you really haven't had the input on how to make the schedule, you're just kind of thrown into the job and this is your schedule and make it work. And we talked about it too. If you're just starting a program, you may get some ideas you hadn't thought of. If you're in a situation where maybe you're trying to change the way that your school schedules music class, this might be helpful too.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So let's dive in. Let's talk schedules.
3, 2, 1.
Here you go.
Jen, I'm excited for our first episode here in 2025. We get to talk about scheduling, everybody's favorite topic.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm happy to see you. Scheduling is its own thing, but
it's nice to get back together and finally get to talk band.
I know. This is good. I was saying before, I didn't have the kind of day that I wanted to talk about more band, but now we're here and I'm very excited to be here.
Nice. Very good. Hey, you know what? That's where you're going to get honesty here on Take a Cue.
Yeah, that's right.
We're honest. You know what? Sometimes you don't want to talk about band outside of the band room.
No, sometimes you don't.
Especially when the day didn't go your way or you've just been doing it all day. And
yeah. So, and that's okay, but we're professionals. The show must go on. No, just kidding.
Listeners, we do this for you, for your benefit.
That's right. And for the benefits of your school and your band room schedule. So because we heard some good things about scheduling. We've lived some good things with scheduling. So we're going to share. Yeah.
Indeed. But before we do that, Jen, and before we even talk about the podcast, what's been going on? How's life? I think the last time we did a show was like November.
I think you're right.
And now it's the 3rd of February.
Yeah. Life is good. The holidays were great. Were really fun. And my New Year's resolutions that we set up are going I'm going pretty strong with them. I said I was going to read more and lose, some weight. So I've been rolling into the gym for the 5 a.m. classes, 2 or 3 days a week and one more on the weekend. So, it feels good. I don't know how long I could keep it up, but it feels pretty good. So,
right on.
Yeah. And, I started out with like a light kind of beach read, but it was good. And now I'm into another book about like this family who had, this like, type of insomnia that just, it's crazy. So, it's like called The Family Who Never Slept or something. It's wild. Man. Yeah, it's pretty intense. So I'm into it. It's a true story, and so that's where I'm at. I'm reading more and doing that.
Good for you.
Yeah. How about you? How was the end of 2024 and rolling into 2025?
Busy. At one school was done. However, we had a nice, long, enjoyable break. Because of the way that Christmas Eve fell, we kind of got like a couple extra days in there that we don't normally get. So it was long. It was longer than usual.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I was ready, when I was done with the break, I was ready to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to be back in school.
Yeah, no,
the kiddos were ready. We were ready to go back, and I was ready to have them go back.
Oh, okay. No, I was in tears in a ball, on New Year's Day, like I usually am. Not ready.
In tears in a ball. You're not supposed to be the ball, Jen.
Listen, I know, right? No, I'm never ready to go back after a nice long break. That's not my style. I can't remember the last time that I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go back. Nope, that's not me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But our concert was on January 14th.
That's right.
I don't even know if we talked about rep, so I'm just going to tell our listeners if they're looking for some good rep. We started the concert with Inspiration Fanfare, which is a new piece by a very young composer named Adrian Sims. And right now in 2024 is 24. And I think he wrote that like 2 years before that. So he wrote this in his like super early 20s. It's a really great fast opener, very exciting. Then we did a piece that I wrote called The Percussion is Lava. It's body percussion. That was by me. And then we finished out with a piece called Bamboo Warrior by Christina Huss. I think I might have actually discussed this maybe on our first season.
Yeah.
It's a great piece by a composer who wrote it while she was researching her own Eastern Asian roots. And it has some of those sort of sounds and flavors. There's a flute solo at the beginning, which kind of mimics a shakuhachi flute.
Oh, neat.
It's definitely a good challenge for the kids. And And what about your concerts? What'd you guys play? Give me the favorites.
The favorites. Oh, all the hits. We opened with Conquest and by Brian Belmages. Then we proceeded to do Creatures in the Attic, another Belmage's favorite. Creepy crawly stuff, little Dies Irae in there. Kids love that one. And then we closed the concert at my two different schools with two different pieces. One was called Kitchen Musicians, banging on pots and pans. That one came across really nicely. Some nice harmonies in there, a little flute moment too. And then my other school, we closed with, Mucho Mariachi. We got to explore some mariachi music, mariachi rhythms, some fun tonalities in there. So yeah, that was a cool piece also. So
nice.
It was some simple concert. The beginners got up and each section played one song for their part of the program. Plus they played like hot cross buns and Mary Had a Little Lamb with the whole group. But each section got up and did their thing. So
I'm sure they were very excited.
They were, and very proud. It was a good vibe when we were done. I really, it was, I'm very happy for them. They did a nice job. So yeah.
Awesome.
And our budding musicians at home, TJ had his first like Suzuki music lesson. He's got very excited about the cello. So, found him a teacher and off we go. So,
exciting.
It was a little weird. I didn't get a chance to tell her that I'm a music teacher, but there we are doing the thing and singing the songs and Taz and, and, she said, oh, he did very well. And, oh, do you play? We got to talking. She's like, oh, so you know what we're doing here. I'm like, oh yeah. So it was good.
Yeah.
But we had he liked it. So we're gonna start rolling with that very soon. So how about you? How are the kiddos?
Everybody's doing well. Maggie had her orchestra concert canceled, the one that she plays with outside of school because of the one snow day that we had.
Man.
And but the upside was they did a recording instead, and they were down an oboe player, so I got to go play with Maggie in that orchestra for the recording, which was really nice.
That's awesome.
It was very special.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I think I saw a picture of you guys go by on Facebook. I was like, oh, yeah. I don't know about the rest of the country, but here in New Jersey, it seems to only be snowing on the weekends. So we haven't gotten I know we haven't gotten to take advantage of any of the snow. It's just like, oh, we're gonna dump it on your fun days. So just kidding.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well.
see, I told you I was coming in here with a little like chip on my shoulder today, but blame the weather.
This is Jen with a chip on her shoulder.
It is, yeah.
Really, really scary.
Oh.
So Jen, we started a new thing since the last time you and I spoke on a full episode.
We did. Takeaways from Take a Cue.
Yeah.
That's been cool. We're like coming up with, short tidbits and tips and tricks and just little things that, we feel like, can level up what you do a little, in the band room. And yeah, I'm having fun sharing some stuff. How about you?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. It's totally scripted ahead of time, so it's not conversational like our normal episodes. But we just thought, from the perspective of somebody who's maybe new to teaching, or maybe just needs some new ideas, or likes to ruminate on something every week, that every week we're coming out with a little 3 to 5 minute episode on Mondays that you can think about during the week, or maybe you find a little tidbit that listeners that you can use in your classroom. So we hope you do. Let us know if you're using them, if you find them useful, if you have ideas for us, because there's a lot of weeks in the year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We've done like 2.5 months worth, and now we've got to come up with more.
And now we got to get a few more in the hopper. So yeah, it's been kind of fun. Like I come out of the gym on Monday morning, and there on my phone, it's like, boop, new takeaway from Take a Cue. And I'm like, oh yay, there we are. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you subscribe so you get yours on Monday every week, and it's right there for you to listen to on your drive-in. So
yeah, or you can watch it. You can watch it on YouTube. But you don't have our videos, our faces.
Right.
Sadly, on the YouTube channel,
That's
but
true.
you can also check it out on YouTube. So we hope you're enjoying the takeaways. We like doing it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you ready to tackle today's very exciting, inspirational topic?
Oh, I think so. I mean, yes, I am.
No, I'm saying that sort of tongue in cheek because people
know.
don't think of scheduling as like super exciting.
I know.
But like I really appreciated like going back and thinking about all the different kinds of schedules that I've had at the different jobs that I've been at, and I liked looking at Jen's notes, and I'm gonna definitely have some questions about some things, especially your work in Connecticut. That's a really interesting.
Yeah. My student teaching
thing.
had some really exciting stuff going on with scheduling.
Yeah. Do you want to start with Livingston though, since that's where we're both at now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with what we're living right now. So living in Livingston.
Tell me about the elementary schools. Okay. I'm probably going to learn something here too. And
So at the elementary schools, we're doing a 30-minute lesson once per week that rotates through the kids' schedules. So we go through. I have 8 or 9 lesson periods per day. And it just rotates through their schedule 30 minutes at a time. I don't typically rotate my prep or my lunch because that's just maddening. But I have in the past, but I wouldn't recommend it. Right now I really can't because I'm teaching on the stage, which is also the cafeteria and the gymnasium. So I can't really do much when lunches are happening. It's just so that's when my prep is during lunches, and my lunch is during lunches. So,
I had written that too, Jen, about how with my lessons, which rotate, I don't rotate my prep anymore, but I used to. Same deal. It was too much to handle.
Yeah. And it was kind of tough. Like, say you had to switch your groups around all of a sudden, like you take a group during your prep and then your prep's gone. And then you do that for a couple days in a row and you really, can get behind on things. So, yep.
Well, my issue was I was, I would come in the morning and I'd be like, okay, is my prep in the morning today? Is my prep in the afternoon? Do I have to plan for tomorrow now? Do I plan for today now? And every day was different. So for me, it became a little too much to do that. Now I know my prep is, in the morning every day. Or
Definitely.
in the afternoon every day.
Yeah. No, I get that. If you keep your prep static, that's the way to go. And our rehearsals are once a week before school. So I count that as one of my lesson periods. So on the days that I have morning rehearsal, I'll have 7 or 8 lessons instead of 8 or 9. That's kind of how we fit that in.
Yeah. And now it's just you there, right? Like it's not, you're not team teaching it or.
No, just me. The only thing that's kind of team taught, now is that, Elise is doing, 4th grade orchestra. We have a string teacher in one of my buildings doing the 4th grade orchestra. But then in the spring, I take those students into, the larger group. So she has them for lessons. And then I have them for morning rehearsals. We combine. So that's kind of what we're living right now. We pull from all classes. I pull from specials. I pull from, the core classes. It just rotates through their whole day. And that seems to be the best because, if I feel like if I rotate through any less than like 6 blocks, they start to feel it, right? Like if you're missing something more than once every, 4 weeks or 5 weeks at the elementary level, they start to like kind of feel like they're missing something too much. So,
let me tell you about middle school. I'll wait till you're done. They should come up and see our schedule.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It's like, I'm sure because your students, I bet, end up rotating through the same courses pretty often. So, I put in our notes, I have a love-hate relationship with the, rotating thing and the before school rehearsals, but doing it after school, there would just be too many things going on for our students. And, I can't imagine at this point in my career saying like, oh yeah, we'll just meet during recess once a week. Like that's not going to fly. I know kids will quit.
Yep.
Rotating through 8 classes, again, they're missing something every other month. It's like they shouldn't be missing the same class very often. So, it's a little crazy. Like you said, every day is different because I don't know what lesson group I'm walking into, but you start to get into a flow and a rhythm and it's kind of okay. So, yeah.
It'd be nice to see those kids a little more often too, especially for like lessons or sectionals.
Right.
Like the more Texas style, thing where I think certain schools in Texas, right? Don't they see the kids like every day?
I think so. At least
like
in the first
grade?
year or two. Yeah. And, I've kind of like snuck in an extra lesson here and there, or I'll stagger, what days they're on so I can see them more often in a week. So like my beginners don't have their rehearsal on the same day as their lesson. Nice. So that's technically 2 days of FaceTime. And then if I can add, like an honor band kind of thing or a chamber ensemble another day, well, then that's the second or third, day I get to see them too. Yeah. So sometimes I'll squeak those things in, if I can. So what's going on at the middle school? 'Cause that's about it for us at the elementary level.
Gotcha. Well, the middle school schedule at Heritage is actually very similar to how it was when I was at Madison and in Morris Plains. Mostly the same concept. There's 9 periods per day in my school. Each one is like 43 minutes, and all the classes follow the same bell schedule. So our lessons follow the bell schedule. We have my personal schedule. I've got 1 general music a day, 1 small ensemble cycle a day. And I think we talked about that in season 1 or season 2 with,
we did,
with chamber music. I think it was season 1, chamber music of secrets, right?
Yes, that's right.
And 1 band rehearsal during the school day, every other day. And then on band days, I have 2 lesson groups. And on non-band days, I have 3 lesson groups. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lessons a week.
Okay. All right. That's great.
And that's okay. I only teach 8th grade. I'm only doing 1 grade. So everything is during the school day, which I do like. We also have a jazz band that meets once after school, once a week after school for 45 minutes. It's not curricular and it's not particularly rigorous or anything like that because of the time constraint, but it works. So when I make the lesson groups, I do it by instrument and by ability if possible. So right now I've got like the trumpets in one group because I only have a handful of trumpets, but like my flutes, I'll put them kind of in, I'll have 2 or 3 groups where, I have a group that can move really quickly. Maybe there are kids who take private lessons outside of school. I've got a group that can maybe needs to move a little bit slower. And then I have a group that needs to take their time and, go over some more remedial stuff. And that really is lucky that I get to split them up by ability because it means that I don't have kids that are, totally bored or totally lost most of the time.
Yeah.
There are definitely times where that happens anyway, but I end up with, usually 3 to 7 kids per lesson group this way. Some positives about it. It allows for a decent amount of time per lesson. So we do get to play.
That's awesome.
Smaller groups, ability to level the lesson groups possibly sometimes. And I'm basically assigned what periods I do the lessons, but I can make my own rotation within that. So
I was going to ask that. So like if I'm a flute, do I like always see you on Mondays or do I? Okay.
All right. I do it. I found that having them on the same day every week really makes them remember the most as opposed to rotating days.
Yeah.
So they're always on the same day, but that does mean that sometimes they rotate just between 2 periods or 3 periods, depending on the day. So they do miss the same class, a little more often than they do in the elementary school. So that's actually one of the negatives about the schedule. But that's just kind of how the schedule worked out. And so I work with it.
Yep.
The small ensemble classes allow for instruments to allow for kids to have their instruments in their hands every day for a quarter of the year.
That's awesome.
And they're not doing lessons at that point when they're doing the small ensemble. So there's also a decent amount of rehearsal time during the school day. That's huge. I know some schools that move their middle school band before school, and it just decimated the program.
Yeah, it's brutal to get 7th and 8th graders out of bed that early. So yeah.
So we're very lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
So the way it works with the kids are responsible for checking the lesson schedule, which I always post online and outside the lesson room at the beginning of every marking period, so they can see 10 weeks in advance what their lessons are going to be on a particular date. If they miss. So if they have like an assessment or a quiz or a test or something in class, then they miss their lesson. They have to make it up. And I do offer makeups after school and things like that. But there's not a whole lot of flexibility for just putting them in with another group because of how few times I see them every, or how many lessons that they rotate through.
Right.
So I can't just say, come period 9, because I'll see them period 9 next week. And then their teacher won't be happy about it.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I do have a lot of flexibility there. Especially since like there's only 4 homerooms. They're all in the same same kind of part of the building.
4 homerooms per school.
For school.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So 4 homerooms per school. But I really, really, really try and get a whole band done in one day, because if I am like, we'll just see each other tomorrow, all of a sudden it's like they're bleeding into the next day. They'll forget. It's messing up, somebody else's group the following day. So, I try and keep everybody to the same day of the week if I can.
That makes sense.
So
that's easier too, because you're not running between schools on every day.
Right. Yeah.
You've got your certain day for this school and your day for this school, and they kind of rotate through. Yeah.
Yeah. That can it can get dicey if I try and overlap that way. So yeah.
The only other issue that I have, and Brendan and I have been looking at ways to change this, is that I said I have 9. There's 9 periods in the day, but I only listed 5 classes.
Right.
So there's 4 other blocks during the day where I'm not teaching band. It's a contractual thing. Right. So there's one is a lunch, obviously, and one is a prep. Then I have 2 duty periods. One of them is like hall duty, and that's often used to like cover other classes when they don't have subs.
Yeah.
But then there's this other thing where we have to like watch other kids read every day. It's called general enrichment.
Okay.
And so I'm in a room with like I don't know, 10 kids who are all reading silently when Brendan's doing his band. So it makes it really tough for us to like recruit because Brendan's doing the same thing opposite.
Right.
Because
He's in a
teaches
duty.
7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he can't come to my band. I can't go to his band. So we're looking at ways to allow us to, be in each other's ensemble rehearsals or help our chorus and orchestra colleagues out with their hundreds of children.
Sure.
And, but right now we kind of just sit and watch students read when the other ones are teaching. So yeah, we're kind of hoping to fix that.
Yeah. That would work really well for you guys,
Yeah.
And then, so do students enrolled in band and orchestra and chorus even get that reading time as part of their schedule? Or is that if you don't have an elective, like what's that? How do you end up in that class? Okay.
They can choose during that period. It's called enrichment time. They can choose to not take an enriched class, like enriched classes like band, chorus, orchestra, family consumer sciences, extra, like enriched FCS, beyond what they get in their cycle classes. There's a bunch of other ones too, enriched tech, things like that. So they can choose to take none, and some do take none, and that means that they're just reading in their general enrichment class every day during that period. It's like half the period for 20 minutes they have to read. Some kids choose one enriched class. So like they'll take band, and then on the opposite days and they alternate. On the opposite days they'll read. And some kids take 2 enriched classes, more 8th grade than 7th grade, but they can take like band and enriched tech.
Okay.
And in which case they don't have that sort of reading time / study hall, which they don't really study. Yeah. Most of them anyway. So yeah, it really depends on the kid.
Okay. Yeah. Really I'm just always curious about, where everybody else is when band and orchestra are happening. And, I'm always wondering about that. So
yeah. And there are other enriched classes, and, I'm not sure if it really keeps the numbers at the middle school lower than they would be otherwise. I've never really run into a whole lot of kids who were like, yeah, I love band, I just didn't take it.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
There are definitely kids who don't take band, who might have been on the fence, and if nothing else was offered, maybe might do one of the music ensembles. But yeah, I've never really run into a whole lot of kids who were like, oh, I love band, I just didn't do it.
Just didn't sign up. Yeah.
They always find a way. And there are a bunch of kids who do like 2 music ensembles. I have a couple of kids this year who play in band and orchestra.
Okay. That's right.
And a couple of kids who do band and chorus. They can do 2 out of 3 music ensembles. Brendan has something a little different this year than I do, in that he's got 2 7th grade bands. He's got about 100 kids, and our band room really only fits about 70, and that's shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, uncomfortably close. Okay. And loud. It's really loud when you have that many kids. So he split it into 2 groups of 50. So they do separate lit, and they play separately on the concert now. And that's new for us too. We used to just have 1 7th, 1 8th. So if they continue next year, I might have 2 8th grade bands.
Wow. That'd be so fun.
Be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of kids. That's awesome.
Yeah. The thing he's running into, of course, is because he has those 2 bands, that means he's actually down 2 lesson groups a week. Right. And he has more kids than he's ever had.
I was going to say, and he has more students. Yeah.
Yeah. His lesson groups are now 15, 16, and sometimes that large, and he is struggling to find the space when we're in the band room for a small ensemble cycle or things like that. So we're working it out. Growing pains.
That's right. When I taught in Ringwood, same idea with rotating lessons once per week on the same day. Lesson groups of 6 to 8 kids. But at the middle school, when I started there, our band rehearsals were pulled from their specials. So it was like you had, PE and media and art and everything going on. And one day a week, whatever that class was doing still went on, but you went to band, right? Like you just didn't go to art and you went to band. And was it one day a week? Oh, no, it wasn't. They had 2 specials in their schedule. So like in the morning, you might have PE as your morning special. In the afternoon, you might have art. The next cycle, you might have music in the morning and PE in the afternoon. It just kind of rotated like that. But anyway, so one day a week, you'd miss your morning special for band, and later in the week, you'd miss your afternoon special for band. And, that was hard. because if they were even like a little bit behind in art or something cool is going on in music class, or, their team needed them in PE, it was like a real rub getting kids to leave special to come to band.
Yeah, and those teachers probably see them less than their classroom teachers anyway. So that
Right.
time is so much more precious because
Exactly.
it's so minimal.
Totally. And then,
Yeah.
once things like SGOs here in New Jersey, student growth objectives, came down the pipe, it was like, oh, well, what do you mean I'm going to be missing my students a quarter of the time and you still expect me to assess them? And I'm not, and that got really weird. But luckily, the wise wave hit the middle school right at the right time. And the band got so big that when the kids left for special, there were like 4 kids left in their specials classes. So they started saying, well, why don't we schedule all the band students in their same specials class? And that was great. That was really, really good. Because, if there were 2 PE classes going on in the gym, well, one was the band class and one was the...
Interesting. Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
And then the PE teachers could team teach. The PE teachers could do those things on the band days, right? And the rest of the specials teachers were like, wait, so I have just nothing that day? We're like, yep, you just have nothing that day. We're just going to take them all. And because they were all scheduled for band.
Wow.
So,
and they were very sad about this.
Yeah. Yep. So sad that they had that extra, day to themselves every week. But I mean, they were big cheerleaders for us all
Nice.
along. Like it was pretty cool. So what we used to do, because like the 7th grade band and the 8th grade band performed together on the concert, right? They would meet after school also one day a week just so they could play together, right? 7th grade specials and 8th grade specials didn't mix. They were separate. So since they never got to rehearse together, we had like a 90-minute rehearsal every week after school to combine the 7th and 8th grade band. But once we started being able to see the kids like consistently and the groups were bigger, there was, 7th grade music and 8th grade music and an honor band in the afternoon. That was like 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that,
Cool.
like really wanted to do it and wanted to make that commitment and everything. So the program evolved because of the, number of kids involved and also because, oh man, that schedule did not work. Yeah. And but it was kind of cool because if you had, like, say you were in 7th grade band and you had specials on Tuesday and Thursday, that you left for band, and then you had honor band in the afternoon, we were seeing some kids like 3 and 4 days a week. It was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that was kind of neat.
Love it. That's very unique. I've not really heard of a schedule like that before.
Yeah, so that was what was happening at the middle school. But at the elementary school, the 5th grade band would bus to the middle school after school to rehearse with the 6th grade band because
Wow.
the 5th and 6th grade bands also perform together.
Wow. And they're not even in the same school.
They weren't in the same school. So like I said, there was 90 minutes blocked out for after school activities after school, like a few days a week at the middle school. So the 5th graders just got bussed over to the middle school and I had that time with them. But like an almost 90-minute rehearsal with 4th and 5th graders every week was like, oh, this is a lot of time we have.
That is a lot of time.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
time. And really we were able to maximize like 40 minutes of it and then, just do other things. And, it was wild for a while. So I kind of shut that down after a while. And the 5th grade band rehearsed at their school. And I just had a big old pickup line at the end of the day and a couple buses. And then the 6th grade band, well, if they were, super motivated and wanted to do the honor band, they could do the honor band. Otherwise, there was no after school commitment for 6th grade, which I felt like, got kids to kind of stick with it for an extra year and everything. And, but anyway, so that was what we were doing. That was what we were doing in Ringwood. So,
Nice.
yeah, it worked out. So
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out for you. That was nice that they allowed you to change it and work,
Yeah,
work within the confines
that's-
of the schedule to really make it work for everybody.
That's
a good
the thing. Sometimes like your band is getting squeezed because of the schedule. Sometimes the schedule is getting squeezed because of the band, and
Yeah.
something's got to give. So yeah, that was a thing.
So the other school that I taught at before Livingston was Wyckoff, and that's the only other place that had a really interesting schedule that I had never seen before. And I'll be curious if you've ever heard of this in any other district.
Okay.
But the idea was it was 6, 7, 8 at the school. In 6th grade, all students had to take a performance ensemble,
Yes.
which meant that chorus was 300 kids and kind of became like a dumping ground. So if you didn't play an instrument, you ended up in chorus.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to or not.
Oh, see, that's when you have to offer our alternative ensembles.
Well, we did in 7th grade. Well, we just didn't,
Okay.
we didn't have the teacher
Sure.
time
Yeah.
to be able to offer that. In 7th grade, however, they were allowed to do an ensemble or world music,
Okay.
which was a non-performance music class. So
Okay.
there were definitely, the chorus was still enormous
Yeah.
in 7th grade, but not quite as big as 6th grade. 8th grade, they could opt out altogether, and they did some other sort of like enrichment kind of things.
Okay.
So the way that it worked was they had their band or orchestra once per week. Full ensemble rehearsal was once a week. Their lessons, however, were part of their scheduled day every other day, including chorus sectionals.
I had chorus sectionals in middle school growing up
Okay.
and in high school. Yeah.
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 I wrote on here, it worked, and it wasn't terrible. So I didn't push to change the scheduling because like it was definitely not what I was used to.
Right.
But it worked. The positives were that students played in lessons a lot because they were there every other day.
Yeah.
And it was easy to work up book technique and band music because we had so much time. And the numbers were big. There were no pullouts, and kids didn't forget because there
Right.
was no forgetting or missing for tests because they were
Sure.
just scheduled there. But there were some negatives to that too. Well, number one, there were huge lesson groups, sometimes like 30 kids in a lesson group. It's really hard to get around and do individual tweaking of technique, especially when you're at that level, that age group, when you've got 30 kids in there. And it's also really easy for kids to like hide.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It was hard to differentiate. It was harder to pick out mistakes. There was no flexibility within the schedule at all because all instruments came at the same time. Period.
Oh,
Like
okay.
all saxes and clarinets came at the exact same time every other day, and that was
Okay.
it. And there wasn't much rehearsal time for the ensemble, so you could do sectional work whenever you wanted to.
Right.
But as far as learning how to play in a band, there wasn't a whole lot of time.
Okay.
It was
Got
once
it.
a week,
Wow.
That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
all the way through 8th grade.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, positives and negatives, but it was definitely interesting. Have you ever heard anything like that before?
Not necessarily like that with the mass lesson groups like that. That's kind of interesting the way that would line up. I can't really picture it, but
Yeah.
yeah. There was like a state standard a while back, like that a lot of schools had to shift when it came out that like you had to take something fine arts, and then certain districts interpreted that as you have to take a performing ensemble. But it really wasn't that. It was like, oh, you could take a music exploratory, you could take world music, you could take those things, but most schools didn't have those courses, like you said, or teachers for those types of courses. So they just said, okay, take band, orchestra, or chorus, and boom, we had humongous chorus enrollment here in New Jersey for a while until districts decided, all right, we gotta shift what we do, and a certain number of these classes don't have to be taught by people with music degrees and this and that. So that was like it was kind of a weird thing. When that standard came about, it was like, oh, okay.
It really was hard on the chorus teacher.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's everybody else.
Yeah.
The band kids are the kids who had been playing, invested their instrument, invested their time to practicing. So they were okay.
Yeah.
Same with orchestra kids. Like they pretty much wanted to be there. But the only other option was chorus in 6th grade.
Right.
And a lot of kids took it in 7th grade too, because they didn't want to do an academic, like I shouldn't say academic. They didn't want to do like a sit down and read the book and do assignments class,
right.
for world music. So they just stayed in chorus anyway in 7th grade. So it was really hard on him.
Yeah, that's a lot.
There were a lot of kids there that did not want to be there.
Yeah.
And it really made it tough for him and for the kids who, really could have learned a lot.
Yeah, like so my student teaching had some very big ensembles and a really, really, really fine programs. Timothy Edwards Middle School in South Windsor, Connecticut.
Yeah, I want to hear more about this. Tell me about this program. This is really interesting to me.
This is really cool. We used to joke and call it Disneyland for band because the schedule is just so good. It's the kind of district where music is king. A third of the kids in that region in Connecticut are from this district, for region band and everything. It's really like a very, very fine program. And part of it is that they get so much face time with the students, and there's a lot of team teaching going on. So that's pretty cool. So, first of all, band, chorus, orchestra, recorder ensemble, all meet every day. So your performing ensembles meet every day, the full group, and those ensembles are all team taught. So there are 2 band directors in the room at all times. And that was pretty cool because, you could pull students out or fix an instrument or this and that. And, whoever's on the podium doesn't have to pay any mind to it. You could just move on with rehearsal. That was really, really cool to see. So your band, say you're the 6th grade band director. Well, you're the 6th and 8th grade band director that year, and you follow those 6th graders into 7th grade, and then you follow them into 8th grade, and you're with them all 3 years that they're at the middle school. The year that you only have one band, the year that you have just the 7th grade band, you are the team leader, because the whole music department has a common prep every day. So you would lead, like today we're talking about our all township concert, and tomorrow we're talking about jazz band auditions, who's coming for jazz band auditions. And there's a lot to talk about every day, like in a program that size, and with all the things going on within the music department, plenty of things to talk about. There was a team plan every day. So now lesson periods, it was kind of as you described about in Wyckoff, like 30, 35 kids maybe in the room, 25, 30 kids. But that was like a sectional that rotated on an ABC schedule. So like you had band every day, but A day you had your sectional, B and C day you would have other elective type classes, home ec or tech
Got it. So every 3 days they had lessons. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So every 3 days you had your lesson, and the lesson groups, the band directors were able to make the lesson groups somehow. I don't know how. I didn't get to see that magic because I was just there to student teach, but all the percussionists were in the same lesson group. All the clarinets were in the same lesson group. So you did see the full section together. But as you said, assessing individually and working with students one-on-one was kind of tough because, it was such a big group. Remediating, a lot of that happened during the team teaching time in ensembles, like pulling a student to just kind of remediate. That happened when there were 2 teachers in the room, usually not necessarily in the sectional time.
I was going to ask, were there times when one of the co-teachers would take out either an individual or a few and work on stuff? Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely. Because like when you have band every day, you can lose your clarinet section for a day. That's fine, So yeah, that happened pretty often. And then there was another part of the program was that there were 2 music theory teachers in the building. And as part of your ensemble experience, you spent 1 day a week for an entire quarter in doing music theory. So like you might miss, band once a week, but you're like writing music on the computer. You're creating music, you're composing, and part of that was like the music you wrote in your music theory class, pull out from band. What you were like preparing it with a partner, and you would play that for your lesson group at the end of the quarter, right? So it was like music theory, create like leading to composition, leading to performance. And that was kind of like the whole portfolio thing that was going on, like a year-long thing that was happening. We're also like tossing around piloting standardized testing for, music performance classes, which was like it was really interesting to see that happening in real time, and it was pretty cool. So
Nice.
So that's a really out there schedule with a lot of support and many music teachers in the building. So
it's interesting. I'm thinking about, like maybe some of our listeners maybe are at a school that's maybe new, and are kind of like building a program.
Yeah.
And to hear these different options could be really useful.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're at a school where the schedule that they've done for so long just really isn't working anymore for whatever reason. And maybe they can get some ideas from this. I mean, these are a few really different schedules that all have pluses and minuses.
Yep.
I'm sure even Disneyland for band, you said that still had, some minuses to it.
It did. I mean, and what if you're in chorus also? Like how is that going to work? And because that where your sectional rotates, well, now you have to rotate a chorus sectional in there too, right? Yep. And your chorus and band are kind of happening at the same time. Well, you're going to miss band for that. Oh yeah, and you're going to miss for music theory. And then wait a minute, I've only been in band 3 days this week in the rehearsal. So it's like it does it changes. Jazz band gets bumped to before school for all the jazz bands. So jazz bands. One for each grade level plus a festival band. Like I said, it's Disneyland. Like, you go for it. So that's 4 days a week of jazz band before school, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a lot going on. So yeah.
So Jen, what do you think is more important at your level? Small groups or ensemble time?
The first year, the small groups.
Yeah.
We need those rah-rah moments. Like we got to throw them together, but I could probably with my beginners, I hope nobody's listening that's interested in cutting my time with them, but I could probably throw together a concert in 4 rehearsals with my first year kids.
Sure.
No problem.
Then the question is, do they even need a concert in 4th grade?
Yeah, they should share what they're doing. Even if it's like an edutainment kind of thing. Like I'm behind performing in the first year.
I know some people don't. Some people don't do it until 5th grade, or they say, well, you can't do it until you reach this point in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was something we did in MAWA. And it was like, you're not going to be a part of the ensemble until you reach page whatever it was. And some students went 2 full years without ever playing in a band, and then went to the middle school and were in the band. It was like it was kind of weird. I wasn't crazy about it. I was kind of that I really think it's one thing to like say, we're not performing in the first year, but it's another thing to say you're not quite ready to be part of this ensemble that rehearses and meets. And, so yeah, it's, you kind of have to look at your students and decide for yourself and, what standards you want to uphold, why you believe in that, but I think they should perform. Yeah. So what do you think? Where are you out with performance?
Well, at the middle school level, I think both are so important. When they're at the point where they can really start playing, a little bit higher level lit, I don't teach the same skills in lessons as I do in ensemble. I'm sure you don't either. But they're at the point now where they really do need to learn that ensemble technique.
Yeah.
It's as important as the individual technique. So I do ensemble technique in ensemble time and technique in lessons. And so without either of those, without one of those, it'd be really difficult.
Yeah.
To be able to either move them forward as players or to move them forward as an ensemble. Mm-hmm. But I did say if I had to choose, I'd probably pick ensemble time for like 7th and 8th on up. Because it's as much about the camaraderie and team building as it is about technique growth. A lot of kids do it because they just love being together in band. Mm-hmm. And you take that time away and it's a different situation.
Yeah, no, they need that. They definitely need that in middle school. I totally agree.
If there was time, I could certainly also work on technique a bit in ensemble. It wouldn't just am thinking about my 60 people ensemble, my 75 people ensemble. Like, how am I going to work on trumpet technique? In half an hour. Every couple days. And I wrote here, people do it. Like directors who only have ensemble time, and I am so impressed when they are able to make it work, because that is really, really hard.
It is. Yeah, that's really, really hard. Everybody's important,
Yeah.
So I've also been thinking a little bit about block scheduling, because some of our colleagues and friends are looking at husbands. Okay, let's put it out there. Tom's district is looking at block scheduling at the middle school next year. 80, 90 minutes. And I'm just wondering if our listeners, or if you have any ideas what that would look like. I'm like, oh man, like, because I've been in the beginning band, mindset of like, oh, I have them for 30 minutes and not a minute more. And sometimes that's all I can do with them. Yeah. So, I'm wondering what that might feel like, at the middle school level.
I hear block scheduling and I immediately think like 60-minute band rehearsals. That would be amazing. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes it doesn't work out that way. I'm thinking of like Morristown's schedule. That's where Maggie is now.
Okay.
They do have block scheduling at the middle school, but it's kind of not really block scheduling in that they have 40-minute periods, but a lot of the classes are 80 minutes. So they're like 2 periods long every other day.
All right.
They're like English is 80 minutes long every day. Mm-hmm. Math is 80 minutes long every other day. Same with science, same with foreign language.
Okay.
Band, however, is still only half of a block or 1 period long. So it's still only 40 minutes.
Okay.
And not 80.
Okay.
But they have it every other day. So it's actually very similar in terms of the ensemble. It's very similar to Livingston at the middle school level.
Right. Like how much time she gets for band. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd be okay. I'd probably do it pretty similarly to Livingston, as long as I could still pull out of class and do that. And I know Morristown does that. They do 40-minute half block lessons once a week.
That's what I was wondering. Like at the high school level, like, with block scheduling is a little more common, are you pulling out from half a block for a lesson, or are you just seeing everybody once a month for a lesson and you get them for the full 80 or 90 minutes
Well, I know at Livingston High School, Mike, they do have a rotating drop block schedule. Mm-hmm. And I think they're 60-minute long periods or blocks, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And I know Mike is only allowed to do lessons during the one lunch period there is a day. The entire school has lunch at the same block for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And so he splits that. He does half a block for a lesson, and then the second half of half a lunch for lessons.
Okay.
And then the other half of the lunch for lessons.
Oh, wow.
And that's all he has. He's not allowed to pull out of any other class in the high school.
Interesting. Okay.
I've heard of other situations in high schools where they do pull out of classes at the high school, and as long as you're rotating.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I know. It seems. I feel like you can pull out of classes in high school, and you know what? They're high school students. If they're struggling, they can find time to make up. Like if they don't feel like they can miss, like there's something else. They can figure it out, and I don't know.
Yeah. But so like those are the two. I've never had a block schedule, but those are the two that I'm familiar with.
Okay.
One is just pretty much like a block schedule, but it ends up being like a normal 9-period day anyway.
9 lesson day anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other is like what Mike does at the high school, and that's only 2 half block lessons a day during lunch, and that's it.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to hear what Tom ends up with, if they end up going with a block schedule, how he ends up, navigating that. That might be interesting to circle back to this if that happens in his school and see how he does it.
I think we should talk.
Yeah. If listeners, if you're curious, Jen's husband, Tom, previously worked in a very small district, and we had him on in our second season, if I'm
I think so.
Correct. I think it was like Little Districts, Big Heart or something like that. I don't know. I
something
love
like
name.
that. I know. So sweet.
It's warm and fuzzy.
Yep. And, now he's in Verona, New Jersey with a colleague at the same level. teaching band. Oh, we got a cameo coming. So, and that's
Oh,
pretty
hi,
amazing.
Roxy.
So yeah, Roxy's got something to say about band. What do you have?
This
to
is
say?
why you got to watch on YouTube.
I know you get
You missed the dog.
doggies. Okay. Yeah. So,
don't.
So Tom's really loving where he is, but they're looking at a big shift for next year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So,
Well, good luck to him.
yeah. Happy scheduling, Tom. Well, Eric, I think this was a pretty good conversation. We covered a lot, kind of a couple different levels and a couple different schedules. And, I hope our listeners find this, helpful and a little bit, with a little bit of levity and not just like, oh, now we will talk schedules. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It can be an interesting conversation, especially if you're looking at ways to enhance your own schedule, that maybe these are some ways you hadn't thought about.
Yeah, totally. So,
Yeah.
all right.
And if you didn't like this episode,
Oh,
but you still like Take a Cue, make sure you check out some of our older episodes
that's
and
right.
check out the takeaways that we are trying to release every Monday, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's right. So hit that subscribe button so you get them delivered to you right off the first thing in the morning on Mondays. And
Yes.
yeah.
Monday mornings.
Tell your friends about us. We want to hear, we want to hear that you're spreading the good news about Take a Cue.
Indeed. Yeah. Don't forget to rate and review us too on your favorite podcast app. It really helps other people find us who maybe wouldn't find us otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want to tell us about your scheduling, what you've been up to with your schedule, if you love your schedule, hate your schedule, let us know on social media. We're always happy to hear what everybody else has going on. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, definitely YouTube. We want to hear from you.
Yes. Well, Jen, this was fun.
Yes, definitely. As fun as
Fun
scheduling. As fun as scheduling could be. So, all right.
All right. Well, until next time.
Until next time, let's get out there and make great music.
Yo.